The holographic display flickered as Commander Kuhn's massive paw swept through the projection, expanding the tactical view of the Harvester fleet. His thick fur bristled with frustration as he addressed the gathered war council aboard the intrepid Vanguard. Their energy shields fluctuate at precisely 0600 hours, according to their internal circadian rhythm. He growled, his raccoon-like features twisted in concentration. That's when we strike. When dawn breaks in their system, the shields weaken as they redistribute power. Around the oval table, the representatives of the Galactic War Council nodded in agreement. General Zafix's crystalline appendages clinked softly as she shifted her weight, the light refracting through her translucent body. Salon, the serpentine diplomat, flicked his forked tongue in approval. Chuan, whose gaseous form swirled within a containment suit, pulsed with bright affirmation. Only Lieutenant Diana Nox, sole human representative on the council, remained motionless, her eyes fixed on the holographic display. Her unusual silence hung in the air, like a physical presence. Commander Kuhn paused, waiting for the inevitable barrage of questions. Nox was infamous for her incessant inquiries, challenging every strategic decision with alternative scenarios and what-ifs. Her silence was unsettling. "Lieutenant Nox," Commander Kuhn said, his voice carrying an edge of wariness. "You have no questions about the Dawn assault." The gathered aliens turned their attention to the human. Nox remained still, her dark eyes reflecting the blue glow of the hologram. The silence stretched uncomfortably. General Zafix's crystalline body chimed with tension. "Is the human malfunctioning?" Solon's scales rippled with suspicion. "Perhaps she has been compromised." Nox blinked, seeming to return from some distant mental journey. "Sorry, Commander," she said, her voice calm and measured. "I was thinking." "Thinking," Kuhn echoed, his tail bristling. In the 3 years since humans had joined the Alliance, Nox had never simply thought without verbalizing every step of her mental process. "Care to share with the Council?" Nox straightened in her chair, eyes bright with a new intensity that Commander Kuhn had learned to both respect and fear. "The Dawn attack strategy is solid, Commander, but I believe I've identified a more effective approach." Nox rose from her seat, stepping toward the holographic display. "May I?" Commander Kuhn nodded, stepping back to give her access to the controls. Nox manipulated the display, zooming in on a seemingly insignificant section of the Harvester ships. "We've been focusing on their shields, waiting for them to weaken. But what if we target where they're strongest? Just not the shields?" Confused murmurs rippled through the council. Nox continued, her fingers dancing through the hologram to highlight a network of tubular structures running along the exterior of each Harvester vessel. "These are feeding tubes. The Harvesters consume stellar energy, storing it in their central chambers. They're most active at dawn, drawing in massive amounts of energy." "We know this," General Zafix chimed impatiently. "This is why their shields weaken temporarily." "Yes," Nox agreed, "but we've been ignoring the most vulnerable moment in their feeding cycle." She expanded the image further. "I call it the lunch attack." Salon hissed in confusion. "Lunch." "Human terminology," Nox explained. "When the Harvesters open their feeding tubes to maximum capacity, they're not just vulnerable because their shields weaken. They're vulnerable because their entire energy intake system is exposed. We don't need to penetrate their shields if we can contaminate their food." The room fell silent as the implications became clear. "We load our smallest fighters with destabilizing particles," Nox continued, her voice gaining momentum. "When the Harvesters begin their morning feeding, our fighters deliver the particles directly into their feeding tubes. The particles will be drawn into their central energy chambers and trigger a cascade failure. They'll effectively digest themselves from the inside out." Commander Kuhn's eyes narrowed. "That's unconventional warfare, Lieutenant." "It's survival, Commander," Nox countered. "The Harvesters have consumed 3 inhabited systems in the past month alone. They don't negotiate. They don't take prisoners. They feed until nothing remains." Silence fell again, heavier than before. How did you conceive this strategy? Chuan's voice bubbled through his translator. Knox's expression darkened. I watched my sister's research station get devoured 2 years ago. Before communication was lost, Eliza sent data on their feeding patterns. I've been studying it ever since. Commander Kuhn considered the plan, his tactical mind weighing the risks against potential rewards. The fighters would need to approach dangerously close to the feeding apertures. Yes, Knox admitted. But our pilots are the best in the galaxy, and we'd lose far fewer ships than in a frontal assault against even weakened shields. After a tense debate that stretched for hours with Knox answering every objection with carefully reasoned responses, Commander Kuhn made his decision. We implement Lieutenant Knox's lunch attack at 0600 tomorrow. He fixed Knox with a stern gaze. I hope your human intuition serves us well, Lieutenant. Knox nodded, her face solemn. It will, Commander. As the council dispersed, General Zaffix approached Knox, her crystalline form glinting under the lights. Your silence earlier, she chimed softly. It was concerning. Among humans, Knox replied, sometimes silence is a warning sign that we're formulating our most dangerous ideas. Zaffix's crystalline structure shimmered with what might have been a shudder. I shall remember that. The next morning, as the Harvester fleet extended their feeding tubes toward the nearby star, the Alliance strike force launched. Nimble fighters darted between the massive Harvester ships, releasing clouds of destabilizing particles directly into the gaping maws of the feeding tubes. The particles were drawn inward on currents of stellar energy, flowing inexorably toward the central chambers. From the bridge of the intrepid Vanguard, Knox watched the tactical display with Commander Kuhn and the other council members. For 30 agonizing minutes, nothing seemed to happen. Knox, Commander Kuhn growled, if this fails. His words died as the first Harvester ship suddenly convulsed its sleek form, contorting as energetic reactions cascaded through its interior. One by one, the Harvester vessels began to distort, their hulls bulging outward before imploding catastrophically. Within minutes, the entire fleet had collapsed into drifting debris. By the cosmic egg, whispered Salon, his reptilian eyes wide with astonishment. Knox stood rigid, watching the destruction with grim satisfaction. When they're hungry, she said quietly, they don't check what they're eating. The victory was celebrated throughout the Alliance, and Lieutenant Knox became a hero overnight. More importantly, the Council began to view human unpredictability as an asset rather than a liability. Knox was promoted to strategic advisor, attending all major military planning sessions. For 3 months, the Alliance enjoyed a respite from Harvester attacks, using the time to fortify vulnerable systems and study salvaged Harvester technology. But their reprieve was short-lived. They've adapted, Commander Kuhn announced grimly at an emergency council meeting. The Harvesters have modified their feeding tubes with filtration systems. Our previous strategy won't work again. The council members turned expectantly to Knox, who had been unusually quiet during the briefing. You're thinking again, aren't you? Commander Kuhn said, recognizing the now familiar stillness that preceded Knox's most innovative and often terrifying strategies. Knox nodded slowly. Proxima Station, she said. That's where we need to strike. Proxima Station was the largest Harvester installation, yet discovered a massive structure in orbit, around a dying star systematically draining its remaining energy. Intelligence reports suggested it served as both a processing center and a command node for Harvester operations in the sector. Their defenses are impenetrable, General Zaffix objected. We've conducted 3 reconnaissance missions. All have confirmed that a direct assault would be suicide. We don't attack from the outside, Knox said, her voice quiet but firm. We attack from within. She manipulated the holographic display, bringing up the schematics of Proxima Station. The station has a regular intake of energy containers, what we've been calling Helios batteries. They're harvested from the star and brought inside for processing. Yes, Commander Kuhn acknowledged, but we can't replicate their energy signature. Any forgery would be detected. "We don't need to forge them," Knox replied. "We need to hijack one." She expanded the display to show the collection vessels that regularly traveled between the star and the station. "We intercept a collector, replace its crew with our strike team, and deliver a modified Helios battery directly into the heart of Proxima Station." "A Trojan horse," murmured Commander Kuhn, recognizing the reference to ancient human warfare. "Exactly," Knox confirmed. "Once inside, the strike team can access their central systems and upload a virus to disable their defenses. Then, our fleet moves in." Salon's scales bristled with concern. "The risk to the strike team would be extreme." "I'll lead it myself," Knox said without hesitation. The declaration sent a shock through the council. It was unprecedented for a strategic advisor to participate in field operations, let alone lead a high-risk infiltration. "Out of the question," Commander Kuhn barked. "You're too valuable to the Alliance." Knox's expression hardened. "Commander, with all due respect, this mission requires human adaptability. Our team will need to make split-second decisions that can't be anticipated in planning." A heated debate erupted with council members divided on whether to approve the mission and whether Knox should participate. Eventually, a compromise was reached. The mission would proceed, and Knox would lead the strike team, but with strict parameters and a non-negotiable extraction timeline. As the meeting adjourned, Commander Kuhn pulled Knox aside. "This borders on a suicide mission, Lieutenant. Are you certain?" Knox's eyes flashed with determination. "The Harvesters took my sister, Commander. I'd go alone if I had to." Kuhn studied her for a long moment. "Just make sure you come back. The Alliance needs your particular brand of human insanity." Preparations for Operation Trojan proceeded rapidly. A team of 12 specialists was assembled from across the Alliance, technical experts, infiltration specialists, and combat veterans. Knox selected each member personally focusing on individuals with demonstrated adaptability under pressure. Sergeant Patel, an explosives expert with a genius for improvisation, became Knox's second-in-command. Major Blackwell, whose neural enhancements gave him unparalleled hacking capabilities, would be responsible for the virus upload. The rest of the team represented the best the Alliance had to offer, a diverse group united by their expertise and commitment to the mission. 2 days before launch, Knox gathered the team for a final briefing. "Once we're inside Proxima Station, standard protocols go out the airlock," she told them bluntly. "We'll be making decisions on the fly. If you're not comfortable with ambiguity, speak now." No one spoke. "Good," Knox continued. "Because there's something I haven't shared with the Council." She activated a secure display, showing a modified schematic of the Helios battery they would be delivering. "This isn't just a container for our team. It's a weapon." Murmurs of surprise rippled through the group. "The core has been replaced with a specialized fusion device," Knox explained. "If we can position it in the central processing chamber, we can trigger a mini-nova that will destroy the entire station." Sergeant Patel whistled softly. "That wasn't in the mission parameters, Lieutenant." "No," Knox admitted. "Because the Council would never approve it. They want the station's technology intact for study. But I've analyzed the risks. If anything goes wrong, if the virus upload fails, the Harvesters could lock down the station and trap us inside. This is our insurance policy." "And our suicide pill," Major Blackwell observed grimly. Knox met his gaze steadily. "I won't order anyone to participate under these revised conditions. If you want out, you can withdraw without prejudice." After a moment of tense silence, Sergeant Patel spoke. "My brother was on Europa Colony when the Harvesters came. I'm in." One by one, each team member voiced their commitment to the mission. Knox nodded, her expression solemn. "Then we proceed as planned, and we pray we don't need to use our insurance policy." The day of the operation dawned with tense anticipation throughout the Alliance fleet. The strike team boarded their modified infiltration vessel, disguised to match the profile of a Harvester collector ship. Knox, dressed in specialized armor designed to mimic Harvester environmental suits, addressed her team one final time. "Remember your training. Trust your instincts. And no matter what happens, ensure the mission succeeds." She paused, looking each of them in the eye. "It's been an honor to serve with you all." With those final words, the infiltration began. The disguised vessel approached a harvester collector. Returning from the star, disabled it with a precision strike, and the strike team boarded. After a brief but intense firefight, they secured the vessel and transferred their modified Helios battery aboard. Nox took the collector's controls, adjusting their course toward Proxima Station. Harvester Collector TC-17 returning with payload. She transmitted, using the captured communication protocols, requesting docking clearance. There was a heart-stopping pause before the response came. TC-17 transmit authentication codes. Major Blackwell activated the spoofing device they had prepared, sending the codes extracted from the collector's systems. Another agonizing wait followed. TC-17, you are cleared for docking bay 7. Proceed on guided approach. Collective sighs of relief filled the bridge. Phase 1 complete. Now came the truly dangerous part. As they approached Proxima Station, the enormity of the structure became apparent. It dwarfed the Alliance's largest vessels, a sprawling complex of processing centers, energy storage facilities, and defense systems. The collector ship was guided into a massive docking bay, teeming with harvester activity. Suits on Nox ordered as they made final approach. Remember minimal communication once we dock. Move with purpose. Act like you belong. The team donned their disguised environmental suits, designed to mimic harvester workers. The suits were uncomfortable, limiting visibility and movement, but they were the team's only chance of moving through the station undetected. The collector docked with a gentle shudder. Outside, harvester workers approached to begin unloading the precious energy cargo. "Showtime," Nox whispered. The team emerged, pushing the modified Helios battery on a hovering transport platform. Nox led the way, mimicking the peculiar gait of the harvesters. They moved through the docking bay past dozens of oblivious harvester workers and into the station proper. Their destination was the central processing chamber, located deep within the station. According to their intelligence, this was where the Helios batteries were taken for energy extraction, and it was also where they could access the station's primary control systems. The journey through Proxima Station was a nerve-shredding exercise in controlled fear. Twice they were nearly discovered when harvester supervisors approached to inspect their cargo. Each time, Major Blackwell used their spoofing device to transmit forged authorization codes, and somehow they were allowed to proceed. "We're being directed to Processing Chamber 3, Nox murmured as they approached a major junction. "That's not in our intel. We need Chamber 1 for the virus to work." Sergeant Patel tensed beside her. "Options." Nox made a split-second decision. "We separate. Blackwell take 4 team members and the spoofing device. Create a distraction in Chamber 3. The rest of us will divert to Chamber 1 with the package." "That wasn't the plan," Blackwell objected. "The plan changed," Nox replied firmly. "Adapt or fail, Major. We'll rendezvous at Extraction Point Bravo in 30 minutes. With visible reluctance, Blackwell nodded. 30 minutes, not a second longer. The team split, with Blackwell leading his group toward Chamber 3, while Nox continued toward the heart of the station. As they progressed deeper, the architecture changed, becoming more organic in appearance. The walls pulsed with flowing energy, and the air thrummed with power. "We're approaching Chamber 1, Sergeant Patel whispered, consulting the schematic displayed in his helmet. "Security will be tighter here." He wasn't wrong. 2 massive harvester guards flanked the entrance to the chamber, their forms more heavily armored than the workers they had encountered thus far. Nox halted the transport, considering their options. Before she could formulate a plan, alarms began blaring throughout the station. The guards at the entrance immediately tensed, their attention diverted. Blackwell's distraction, Nox realized. Right on time. As the guards moved away from their post to respond to the emergency, Nox led her team quickly through the entrance. Beyond lay Chamber 1, the pulsing heart of Proxima Station. The chamber was vast, a cathedral-like space filled with swirling energy. Dozens of Helios batteries were suspended in processing cradles, their contents being systematically drained into the station's power grid. At the center stood a massive control pillar surrounded by harvester technicians. "There," Knox pointed. "That's our upload point." They moved their modified battery into position among the others, waiting to be processed. Major Wu, their demolition specialist, began the delicate process of arming the fusion device, while Knox and Patel prepared to approach the control pillar. Suddenly, a new alarm sounded different from the first. "They've discovered Blackwell's team," Patel guessed grimly. Knox nodded. "We need to move faster. Wu, is the package ready?" "Armed and counting down," Wu confirmed. 15 minutes until detonation. We can still disarm remotely if necessary." Knox made her decision. "New plan. We abandon the virus upload. The fusion device will accomplish our primary objective more effectively anyway. Let's get to Extraction Point Bravo and rendezvous with Blackwell's team." They were halfway to the exit when disaster struck. A squad of Harvester security forces stormed into the chamber, weapons raised. At their head was a Harvester wearing distinctive command insignia. "Intruders detected," the commander's mechanical voice boomed. "Surrender or be destroyed." Knox raised her hands slowly, signaling her team to do the same. "Keep them talking," she subvocalized through their secure communication channel. "We need to buy time for the device." "We surrender," she called out to the Harvester commander. The Harvesters surrounded them, confiscating their weapons. The commander approached Knox, studying her disguised form. "Remove your counterfeit coverings," it ordered. With deliberate slowness, Knox disengaged her helmet, revealing her human features. The Harvester commander's reaction was immediate, a high-pitched whine that might have been surprise or alarm. "Human," it said, the mechanical voice, somehow conveying disgust. "Your species is persistent. Inefficient but persistent." "We have a talent for survival," Knox replied, keeping her tone conversational, buying precious seconds. "Not today," the commander stated flatly. "Your infiltration has failed. Your companions in Sector 7 have been captured. Your fleet remains outside our defensive perimeter, unaware of your failure." Knox allowed herself a small smile. "Are you certain about that?" The commander paused, perhaps detecting something in her tone. "Explain." "Check the Helios battery we brought in," Knox suggested. "You might find it enlightening." The commander barked orders, and several Harvesters rushed to examine the modified battery. Knox watched the chronometer in her peripheral vision. 8 minutes until detonation. "What have you done?" the commander demanded, as its subordinates reported their findings. "Created a star," Knox answered simply. Understanding dawned visibly, even through the commander's alien features. It immediately began issuing evacuation orders, but Knox knew it was already too late. The station was too large, the personnel too numerous to evacuate in the time remaining. "Release my team," Knox demanded. "Let us reach our extraction vessel, or die with us when that device detonates." A tense negotiation followed, with the commander clearly calculating their odds of disarming the device versus the value of capturing the infiltration team. In the end, self-preservation won out. "You will be escorted to your vessel," the commander decided. "But you," it pointed at Knox, "will remain as insurance." Sergeant Patel immediately protested. "We all go or none go." Knox silenced him with a sharp gesture. "Accept the terms, Sergeant. That's an order." "Lieutenant, get our people out, Patel. That's your mission now." Knox's expression left no room for argument. With visible reluctance, Patel nodded. "It's been an honor, Lieutenant." "Likewise, Sergeant. Now go." As her team was escorted away, Knox turned back to the Harvester commander. "You should have killed us all. It would have been the wiser choice." "Explain," the commander demanded. Knox smiled thinly. "Because now they'll tell everyone how I stayed behind, how I sacrificed myself to destroy you, and my death will inspire 1,000 others to follow in my footsteps. Humans are funny that way." The commander studied her with what might have been genuine curiosity. "Your species values martyrdom." We value courage, Knox corrected, and we remember those who show it. 4 minutes until detonation. Knox wondered if her team had reached the extraction point, if they had found Blackwell's group, if they would escape in time. She hoped so. Your courage is misplaced, the commander said after a moment. This station is but one of many. Its loss will not significantly impede our consumption. Perhaps, Knox acknowledged, but it's a start. 3 minutes. The commander ordered the chamber evacuated, leaving only itself and a squad of guards with Knox. You will tell me what other plans your alliance has formulated. Knox laughed. I don't think we have time for that conversation. 2 minutes. A distant explosion rocked the station, powerful enough to momentarily dim the lights in the chamber. The commander's attention snapped toward the disturbance. Your team, it accused. Knox shrugged. Told you, humans are persistent. 1 minute. The commander received a frantic communication, its posture stiffening. Impossible. Your extraction vessel has broken containment. They are attempting to return for you. Hope flared briefly in Knox's chest, quickly suppressed. Tell them to go, she said, knowing her team couldn't hear her. The mission comes first. 30 seconds. The chamber doors burst open, and Sergeant Patel charged in with 4 team members, firing blasts that cut down the Harvester guards before they could react. The commander turned to engage them, but was dropped by a precision shot from Major Blackwell, who appeared in the doorway. Time to go, Lieutenant, Patel called, rushing to Knox's side. The device, Knox protested, as Patel cut her restraints. We'll never clear the blast radius. Already handled, Blackwell reported, helping her to her feet. We modified the yield. It'll still destroy the control systems, but give us a fighting chance to escape. You disobeyed my direct order, Knox said as they rushed from the chamber. Patel grinned fiercely. Court-martial me later, ma'am, if we survive. The mad dash to their extraction vessel was a blur of firefights and narrow escapes. Somehow, against all odds, they reached the docking bay where their disguised collector waited. As they boarded the station, shuddered violently. That's the first energy cascade, Wu explained, as they strapped in. We have approximately 3 minutes before the main detonation. Knox took the controls, powering up the engines. Then let's not waste them. The collector shot from the docking bay like a bullet from a gun, accelerating hard toward the defensive perimeter. Behind them, Proxima Station began to convulse as the modified Helios battery triggered a chain reaction throughout its energy systems. Alliance Command, this is Lieutenant Knox, she transmitted as they fled. Mission accomplished. Requesting immediate extraction and fire support. Commander Kuhn's voice came through the comm system, thick with relief. Confirmed, Lieutenant. Support incoming. Get clear of the blast zone. The Alliance fleet, which had been holding position beyond the station's sensor range, now surged forward, creating a corridor for the escaping collector. As they reached the safety threshold, Knox allowed herself to look back. Proxima Station was coming apart at the seams, brilliant energy discharges erupting from its surface. The sight was both terrible and beautiful, a man-made nova consuming the massive installation that had threatened so many worlds. Then, with a final cataclysmic surge, the station exploded, a blinding flash that momentarily outshone the nearby star. The shockwave hit their vessel seconds later, sending it tumbling despite the protection of the Alliance ships. When they regained control, and the sensors cleared, nothing remained of Proxima Station but scattered debris and a dissipating energy cloud. Silence filled the collector's bridge as the team absorbed what they had accomplished and what they had survived. We did it, Patel said, finally, his voice thick with emotion. We actually did it. Knox nodded, her own feelings too complex for words. Eliza had been avenged, at least in part, but the war was far from over. The return to the intrepid Vanguard was met with a hero's welcome. As Knox and her team disembarked, the assembled crew erupted in cheers. Commander Kuhn himself waited at the docking bay, his expression a mixture of relief and amazement. You cut it rather close, Lieutenant, he growled as she approached. Sorry, Commander, traffic was terrible. A flicker of amusement crossed his features, before being replaced by solemnity. The Council is assembling for your debriefing. They're eager to hear how you managed to destroy Proxima Station when the mission parameters called for disabling it. Knox straightened. I take full responsibility for the change in objectives, Commander. My team was following my orders. I've no doubt of that, Kuhn replied. But before we face the Council, there's something you should know. He gestured toward a nearby view screen, which displayed a tactical map of the sector. We've been monitoring Harvester communications since the explosion. Their fleet is in disarray. Proxima Station wasn't just a processing center, it was their command hub for this entire sector. Knox stared at the display watching as Harvester vessels moved erratically, some fleeing the sector entirely. Then, we did more damage than expected. Considerably more, Kuhn confirmed. You've given us an opportunity we never anticipated. The Council has already authorized a full offensive to reclaim the conquered systems, while the Harvesters are disorganized. The debriefing with the Galactic War Council was tense, but ultimately triumphant. Knox presented a full account of the mission, taking personal responsibility for the decision to destroy Proxima Station, rather than merely disable it. To her surprise, the Council received the news with approval rather than censure. Lieutenant Knox's actions, while exceeding her mandate, have resulted in the greatest strategic victory of this conflict. General Zafix declared her crystalline form, pulsing with rare emotion. The Alliance owes her and her team a debt of gratitude. In the days that followed, Knox was promoted to commander and given authority to form a specialized strike force for continued operations against the Harvesters. The Alliance began a coordinated campaign to reclaim lost territory, leveraging the confusion and disarray of the Harvester forces. Yet, amid the celebration and renewed hope, Knox maintained the quiet intensity that had marked her since the loss of her sister. While others saw the destruction of Proxima Station as a decisive victory, she understood it was merely the beginning of a longer, more difficult campaign. One evening, as she worked late in her new office aboard the intrepid Vanguard commander, Kuhn paid her a visit. The reports can wait until morning, Commander Knox, he said, noting the strategic analyses scattered across her desk. Knox looked up, her eyes tired but determined. The Harvesters won't, sir. They're already adapting to the loss of Proxima. Our window of opportunity is closing. Kuhn settled his massive form into a chair across from her. You never stop, do you? Even in victory, you're preparing for the next battle. That's how humans survive, Commander. We celebrate our victories, but we never forget that there's always another threat on the horizon. Kuhn studied her thoughtfully. When I first met you, I thought your species' constant questioning and adaptability was a weakness, a sign of evolutionary immaturity. I have since revised that assessment. Knox allowed herself a small smile. High praise indeed, Commander. Don't get used to it, he growled, though without heat. The Council has approved your proposal for Operation Sunburst. You'll have the resources you requested. Knox's expression brightened with fierce satisfaction. Thank you, sir. We won't waste the opportunity. As Kuhn rose to leave, he paused at the door. One question, Knox. That day in the briefing when you went silent, what were you really thinking about? Knox's gaze turned distant, remembering. I was thinking about Eliza's last transmission. Before the Harvesters consumed her research station, she noted that they seemed to treat energy like food. That was the key insight. They weren't just machines harvesting power. They were predators feeding. And all predators have a feeding pattern that can be exploited. A simple observation that changed the course of the war, Kuhn mused. Sometimes the quiet ones are the most dangerous, Commander. Knox replied with a hint of a smile. That's something the Harvesters are learning the hard way. After Kuhn departed, Knox returned to her work with renewed purpose. On her desk sat a small, holographic projector displaying an image of herself and Eliza, taken before the war. Two sisters smiling, unaware of the challenges that lay ahead. We've only just begun, Knox whispered to the image. But we're going to win this, Eliza, I promise. The war against the Harvesters would continue, with victories and setbacks on both sides. But that night, in the quiet aftermath of their first major victory, hope burned brighter than it had in years. And for Lieutenant now, Commander Diana Knox, silence was no longer a warning sign, but a promise of vengeance yet to come.